Hello, my name is Corey O'Connor. I am the Director of Product Marketing here at DoControl, and I will be your presenter on today's webinar, which is Solving the Human Element of SaaS Data Security. Thank you for joining today's session. We've got some great content to cover. Before we get into it, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please input them into the chat function on the right-hand side of your interface, and we'll be sure to save a few minutes at the end of the presentation to address them. So again, thank you all for taking the time to join today, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, so wanted to first cover the emerging attack vector that is SaaS. So when you look at this graphic here, there's a number of major security events and breaches that at some point within the attack chain involved the compromise of SaaS applications, whether it was AWS keys that were shared over a public Slack channel from one developer to another and were not removed, which is what took place with Twitter. The recent, similarly with the recent Lapsus breach in Okta, same sort of idea where you have these privileged credentials that are exchanged over a collaboration or communication application, and those users did not go back and remove the file, delete the file, or revoke the access. And then more recently, we had GitHub experience a data breach where OAuth tokens were compromised, and it was essentially a supply chain attack where these unauthorized users were able to gain access to a number of different customer repositories within GitHub, right? So when you think about SaaS utilization and adoption today, every organization is leveraging SaaS to make their business become more agile. But like any tool or technology that is going to enable the business, you want to make sure that there aren't any negative implications from a security standpoint. And it's the same with SaaS. Organizations are relying on these tools to drive business enablement. They want to make their employees more productive. They want to make things as easy as possible for all the different identities, whether they're internal users or external collaborators, make it easy for those users to perform their job. And when you look at SaaS security, it's really a cross-functional challenge. You've got all these external threats, malware propagation is listed there. You've got a number of different SaaS application providers. When you try to manually enforce data access governance and controls within these very complex, disparate applications, and doing that in a manual process, it's not scalable. It's not the best use of time or sensitive resources. I mean, there's a lack of security personnel out there, right? And trying to perform access controls in a manual way and leveraging the native features and functionality within those application providers, they're all different. It's not the best approach. You've got compliance requirements. You've got a number of privacy regulations that are out there. You've got internal policy that you might have to comply with. It's a problem. You've got users, right? You've got legal, you've got the compliance team, IT, all of these different departments that have access to sensitive data, right? You've got the emergence of non-human identities and machine access. These non-flesh and blood users have been around for some time, but there's certainly a presence here in the SaaS application environment as well. And that was what we had seen in that GitHub example, where those tokens, right, which was a part of a application to application workflow authorization, those tokens were compromised. You have external exposure. You've got a high number of users, a high number of files and data that exist, that is being accessed and shared and manipulated across a wide variety of different third-party agencies, internal employees, contractors. And then, of course, insider threat, that's the topic of today's presentation. You have employees that are departing the business, and before they leave, they take with them sensitive data and perform a mass download. I think everybody at some point in their career was guilty of taking some files with them. They don't necessarily have to be super sensitive files, but when we meet with prospects and we perform a POC with them, we will integrate to business critical applications, and from there we can see former employees that still have access to a customer list. It's usually the case where a sales rep who has left the business is still accessing customer lists and other files within the business, and obviously that is not something that should be taking place. And we'll kind of talk about the different insider threat profiles, but there's a number of different challenges within trying to manage insider risk. It's difficult, and it's certainly difficult within the world of SaaS. I wanted to highlight the fact that Gartner recently published a market guide for insider risk management solutions. We at DoControl were super excited to be listed as a representative vendor within that market guide. These market guides are often a precursor to a magic quadrant. So again, DoControl, super thrilled to be included. Wanted to reference some of the interesting statistics and a few other data points from the market guide. First, you can see on the slide, just under $16 million spent on average in 2021 to attempt in dealing with insider threats. 42% of insider threats involved intellectual property or data theft. And then you have a 44% increase of insider incidents from last year, or I should say from 2020 to 2021. So the risk of insider threats continues to be top of mind for CISOs and security practitioners. The market guide is a great resource for organizations that are looking for solutions to mitigate the risk of insider threats. One other thing that I did want to include here is within the market guide, Gartner calls out 4 mandatory capabilities of enterprise IRM or insider risk management platforms. The first one is orchestration with other cybersecurity tooling, including SOAR. So DoControl sends logs, intervention workflows, execution summaries, and custom incidents to a SIM or a SOAR, and it ties external remediation paths to DoControl to trigger SOAR playbooks. The second capability is having the ability to monitor employee activity and assimilate into a behavior risk model. So at DoControl, we do have essentially your standard user behavioral analytics. So we aggregate and correlate all SaaS users and activities by leveraging SaaS metadata as a source to then monitor and control all activities within the SaaS estate. The third capability is dashboarding and alerting on high risk activity. And certainly at DoControl, we do, as I mentioned, perform those behavioral analytics. We establish a baseline of end user activity. Anything that deviates from that reference point automatically notifies security teams of potential insider threats or other security event related issues. And then last, orchestration and initiation of intervention workflows. So really one of the main value drivers for DoControl as a solution provider goes back to our security workflows. So we allow data access control policies to be applied consistently throughout your SaaS environment to aid in the prevention, the loss, the leakage, and misuse of sensitive company data. So just a quick plug there. The market guide was published back in April. It's available. Check it out on Gartner's website. We've got some great content to support DoControl's positioning within the market guide. So visit our website. We published a press release and a blog if you're interested in learning more. Now, getting into it, when it comes to addressing insider risk, security starts within. You need to protect sensitive company data from exfiltration. And it really requires a combination of people, process, and technology. So the first one on people, people are people, right? We make mistakes. Everyone's human. Human error is always going to be a factor, but it's critical to proactively train your employees and try to foster a security-minded culture within your organization. Educating your people is really important to protect the business from insider-led attacks. And it's not just about enabling your employees to be more security minded through an annual training. There needs to be more done to effectively mitigate the risk of insider threats. And one of the ways, and we'll talk about how we do this at DoControl, you want to try to engage your business users. Of course, you don't want to inundate them with notifications, but you want to engage the employees with they're in the case of the use cases that we'll cover here, sharing files with third parties, right? You want to make sure that they're mindful of what they're doing in terms of providing access to sensitive data to the various identities, external parties, so on and so forth. So people, again, first part of the pillar. Next one is process. You need to establish security policies that are proactively mitigating access issues to prevent insider risks from becoming an actual material threat to the business. And this is especially important for data that's stored within SaaS applications, which again, difficult to monitor and control. Process is it can be a challenge, right? To implement effective process that truly works for the business and doesn't slow the business down. I think that is what every security vendor is striving to achieve is, providing a strong security posture without creating obstacles for your users to bypass. And if there's a way to get around control or a process that creates frustration for the end user, guess what? They're going to look for opportunities to get around them. So you want to make process and create policy that works for the business in an effective way. And then the third piece, technology. You need, it's a combination of multiple technologies. There's no single vendor out there that's going to prevent insider threats or effectively manage insider risk from one single point solution. So you need to use a variety of different tools and technologies to remediate the threat of insider risk. And it's not, these three pillars are important, but they need to be intertwined or interconnected, right? So you need to create policies that will engage your business users. The technology needs to be sound, that's effectively addressing the use cases that are relevant to your business. These three pieces, these three pillars need to be interconnected. How does it work? DoControl is a fully agentless solution. There's no API redirections. We're not a proxy. It's fully agentless. It's an event-driven platform. We connect with your business critical SaaS applications. You can see a few examples on the slide. We also integrate with your data ecosystem. So your IDP, your HR application, your EDR solution, SIMSOAR, ITSM, TIP. So a number of existing technology and security investments that likely exist within your technology stack. We can hook into them. And really the main value here is, you can see it, contextual data enrichment. It's really extracting the business context of what's taking place, real-time user action. So we create a full inventory of all SaaS users, events, and activities. We expose that in an easy to consume dashboard where your security operations team can review anything that they need to. They can look at individual users and dive deep into what their activity trail looks like. You can manually remediate the risk of insider threats through self-service tooling that we provide. We provide automated remediation through security workflows, and I'm kind of getting into more of what's presented on the slide. Creating granular data access control policies that will prevent insider risk as well as external threats. The main use case here, and we'll cover this in the solution demo, is, when we look at the HR application, if you have an employment status change that takes place within, say, Bamboo HR, as soon as that employee puts in their notice and they are resigning from the business, guess what? Their risk of, I should say, their profile of becoming an insider threat increases, or they become an insider threat. So you want to be able to more closely monitor what that employee is doing and prevent them from sharing sensitive data and files. The example that I provided earlier, like a customer list to their private email account. So again, the workflows that we enable security teams to create are automated, and they will automatically reduce the risk of, in this case, an insider threat of an employee that is resigning. But it's not just malicious insiders. You have negligence. You have people make mistakes, right? It's very easy for employees to click on a phishing email or be kind of socially engineered and to believe somebody that is malicious and provide access to that outside user. So you also have compromised users as well. So it's not always deliberate where an identity is trying to cause harm to the business or trying to steal proprietary information or damage the brand or what have you. There's again a variety of different insider threats that organizations are having to deal with. All right, let's do a little solution demonstration. We can show you how this all works within our platform. All right, so I'm going to open up the DoControl service. First, let's just take a quick look at the organizational posture. So over here, we can see the top exposed drives, the asset exposure, asset location, remediation actions, some of the alerts that are elevated into this dashboard, workflow executions throughout the last month. You can highlight this is a demo environment, so it's a bit slow here. Here we go. We do have, identities that present a higher level of risk. That is also highlighted there. So you can, again, kind of at a very high level, review the users that are presenting a higher level of risk. We won't go through the entire console, but again, we create an inventory of users, OAuth apps, right? So all of your third-party OAuth SaaS applications, we have visibility into that environment. So any sanctioned or unsanctioned application that exists within your environment, we have visibility into, right? So it's not just the applications that our product is integrated with or subscribed to. You have insight into every SaaS application via OAuth. And from there, you can create security workflows to address threats, right? So suspending applications or removing potentially malicious applications from your environment via an automated security workflow. But in here, you've got self-service remediation, you've got visibility into all the different users and applications and the assets within your estate. But we do want to focus on a use case. So here, I've created a security workflow. We do have a library of pre-established workflow templates that can be leveraged. So you don't have to start from scratch. You, of course, can start from scratch. As I mentioned, it's an event-driven platform. So you need some sort of a triggering event. So in this case, it's a file share by an employee that has put in their resignation, right? So here we can see that they're no longer in a trusted domain because they're essentially resigning from the company. The email is, we've created in this example, a list of recently terminated employees. So as I mentioned earlier, when there's that employment status change within Bamboo, guess what? It automatically triggers or initiates this workflow. So the conditions are they sharing it with a personal email account? So here we can see, again, this is just a demo environment, but we've created a subset of private email accounts. You can create a group that includes all of your standard email aliases, right? If it does not include a private email account, then we want to support that workflow. If you want to block that employee from sharing anything to anyone, then you can do that. But one of the great things about the DoControl solution is the granularity that we provide. So you can create policies that are super specific and super detailed to address whatever your security program requirements are. And as I mentioned in the slides, we don't want to slow the business down, right? So we want to provide access kind of in a least privilege enforcement way, right? We want to give our users the appropriate amount of access for them to be effective in their role, but we don't want to give them more access than what is required. I mean, that's what creates higher levels of risk, overexposure. Employees are often over permissioned anyways, and their entitlements are not managed effectively at the identity level. So we kind of go a bit deeper beyond the identity layer and directly into these specific SaaS applications and the kind of the SaaS data layer and enforce least privilege at that lower level. But again, we're not trying to slow the business down. We don't want to be a blocker. We don't want to inundate your business users with notifications. But again, we've got conditional looping here. So again, if this in this example, if they're sending it to an approved third-party vendor, then we want to support that. If they are sending it to a private email account, then we want to remove, essentially block that action from taking place, and then we can notify the individual actor. This is what I think is most interesting here. We can notify individual users of their sharing activities. So if it's something that presents risk, or if it violates a policy, then we want to be able to do that, right? And here, this is all no code, low code. We've created a number of different shortcuts that are common in a lot of these workflow creations. So, getting a document ID or a document name, shared ID, shared drive ID. You can plug these in. These are fully customizable. In this example, we're sending an email. You do have the option of routing via a Slack webhook to a specific, like a SaaS security incidents channel. So things that are, presenting a higher level of risk, you can notify your security team. You can notify your line of business manager. Again, if it's a lower risk event, we want to just notify the user that they've done something risky. You also, in this example, we're removing the collaborator, but you have the option of notifying the individual and approving it from Slack. So let's just take a quick peek here. And I'm going to pull up my Slack. Right. So this is our, we obviously use DoControl at DoControl. So we are, drinking our own wine or eating our own dog food. But you can see the do bot, right? So this is a Slack bot. Here you can see some of my activities and some of the workflows that we've created, right? So in a previous demonstration, I shared a file with my own private email account. Do you want to approve it? Yes, I do. You can, in this example, we've created a kind of a time-bound element to the workflow where we'll reach back out to that individual actor after 30 days, right? So same with if you're working with a third party. When a business relationship comes to a close, that third party should no longer have access, right? Think about it. We in marketing are working with a number of different agencies. We have search engine optimization, we have a PR agency, we have creative agencies, we've got content agencies that we've worked with. We work, very closely with a long list of third-party vendors. So should those vendors still require access after a certain amount of time? Certainly when the relationship comes to a close, you want to remove all access, right? And then the other thing, which I touched on, was the SaaS security incidents. So this is a demo environment, but here you can see uh, an activity trail, right? So as soon as that workflow is triggered, we're automatically routing a notification to the Slack channel, and you can take immediate kind of quick action to remove the file from being publicly accessible. You can create a specific policy directly within this notification, and you can also pull up the event details, right? So here is the activity trail within that example, right? So it creates an audit trail for these high risk events, right? Let's just go back to a couple more slides, and then we can take some questions. All right. All right. So the DoControl Difference, as I mentioned, it's a totally lightweight, agentless solution, easily integrates with your existing stack, low total cost of ownership. I mean, we don't carry with us any technical debt whatsoever. Fully SaaS. We recognize the resource shortage on the security side, so we want to make things as easy as possible for our users, right? Um, no code workflows, we already covered this. So security teams can create automated data access control policies that are going to minimize their data overexposure and mitigate the risk of a data breach or data exfiltration. I think the immediate impact is just keeping your risk exposure low, because you oftentimes have data and files that are accessible indefinitely, right? Not all of it's super critical, super sensitive, but you shouldn't have data that's just floating in the ether that oftentimes is accessible by people that shouldn't have access to it in the first place. Um, and then lastly, it's a platform, right? So it's a single SaaS data access security strategy that can address a wide variety of different use cases that you need to, and it's centralized, right? So you've got all these different SaaS applications. On average, enterprises use up to upwards of 200 different applications. So we want to be able to secure access from a centralized control point, and that's what we do at DoControl. Who are we? We are an emerging SaaS security vendor. We've got some great customer logos, which are presented on the slide. And then we also have some great investors. We're VC backed. We just raised our Series B with Insight Partners. So recognized, got a bunch of company awards. We're more recently referenced in CRN, following on the heels of this year's RSA conference. And yeah, more and more organizations are putting their trust in DoControl to partner with us and help secure their SaaS environments and enable their business in a secure way. So just a little bit more on DoControl. And that's it. A couple of questions that came in through the chat queue. Which applications does DoControl support? So, we really focus on the business critical applications that most organizations are using. So, a lot of them are your content collaboration tools like Slack, like Google Drive, Microsoft O365, Box, Dropbox, Salesforce, excuse me, so on and so forth. So we've got, I think, somewhere between 35, 40, close to 50 different applications. We continue to onboard them based on customer demand, as well as, again, kind of supporting those popular applications. The next question is, let's see, how does DoControl integrate with other solutions? So it's done via an HTTP request. So we have pre-established integrations that can be leveraged within security workflows. But if you have a solution like an ITSM or other solutions that can ingest those HTTP requests, then we can we can integrate with those solutions. So an example, let's say that a user's trying to share data with an unapproved domain. We can route that request through an ITSM where they can review that request, approve it, and then send it back to DoControl to continue on with the rest of that workflow that's been established. Um, so that's it. That's all the questions that came in. Again, appreciate everyone's time in joining today's session. Our next session will be on securing OAuth SaaS third-party applications. We covered this very briefly in today's presentation, but we have our product management team that's going to cover that one. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. And registration is open. So, view our Bright Talk channel and sign up for that next one. And that's it. Thank you again very much, and have a good rest of the day. Thanks.